You buy property insurance and you think everything is good until you find out it's not. I'm Ellen Mitchel, your heels on the ground in the Miami-Fort Lauderdale area. And on this channel, we talk about everything real estate, probate, guardianship, senior relocation, and today we are talking about a hot topic, real estate. And we have my favorite insurance agent, Aaron Talone, with All-Star Insurance Services. I got it right this time, right?
That's great.
All-Star Insurance Services with us. And we did a video earlier talking about condominium insurance, and now we're going to talk about single-family homes. So when we talk about that policies lie, I have a lot of clients. I'll introduce them to you, and they're asking me how to get the least expensive coverage. And I try to tell them it's not just about cost, because what you don't know can hurt you. So can we get into that?
Great. Thank you for having me. I always enjoy our conversations. Great question. Often that people are purchasing insurance, it's not the first thing they think of. So I'm happy that these folks even have a policy. That's not always the case. There's houses that are not insured at all. But when you're purchasing insurance, it's very common to look at the bottom line first. When you go to the store and buy something, typically you look at the tag on the suit or what have you. When it comes to insurance, really the premium's only accurate with what you need. So unfortunately, if you choose the lowest policy, and I don't mean by rate, on like the price you're paying, the deal you're getting, if you look at the final dollar, it doesn't really dictate what's inside the policy, and you could buy the wrong one.
So what does that look like? What would me buying the wrong policy look like?
So instead of going to the bottom of the page, let's call it, and then having the sticker shock, I would start at the top. There's four main coverages of a homeowner's policy as far as property coverage, and that's the cost to rebuild the structure of the home, other structures like a detached in-law suite, or fence, pool, things along those lines. There's your personal contents of the home, and then there's the loss of use, which pays for you to live elsewhere while you're renovating a home that had a loss. So if you start at the top and you really do an effective inventory, let's call it, of what you would need in the event of a bad loss, that's how you should start. That's our limits on a policy. The next thing on a policy is what we call the hazards or the perils that are covered. So most homeowners policies cover your fire, lightning, explosion, falling objects, things along those lines. But in Florida, flood and windstorm is a different policy.
And a lot of people don't realize that. They think that their policy includes flood and windstorm. And so if they get a policy and they're like, well, this one's so much cheaper, it may be because it's not including things that they think they have, but that they don't.
Correct. So the first thing I mentioned was the limits is, do you have enough? The perils or the hazards is, do you have the things that could happen wrong? And typically the claim that you get is not the claim that you chose or that you planned for. It's always the one that you never thought of. So it's really important to have a broad policy. There's basic, broad, and special perils. Special perils, you want on all property insurance, basically means everything's covered that isn't excluded. So you don't have to name what you want, you just get the whole basket of goods minus the traditional exclusions that would apply to any policy, like nuclear disaster,
And with policies, with insurance being so expensive these days, and I do find it very expensive these days, what are things that homeowners could do that would reduce their insurance premiums?
It's a great question. Well, assuming that what we just said was really important, that folks have looked at the limits and looked at the right coverages are in there, now our job is to get the premium down. So when I think of the biggest cost items of a policy, it's typically windstorm. So windstorm is predicated on, what is the age of the roof? What is the type of roof you have? And how is the roof connected to the structure? Also the openings of the home.
We should say not everybody, windstorm, because we're in South Florida, we have hurricanes. And so windstorm is a big thing here that may not be a big thing where some of our viewers are. So I just wanted to make sure we tied that in for people.
No, sure. What I would tell you is you want to look at the most expensive parts of the policy, right? What are you getting charged for? Presuming that you have all of the coverages that you need. And the thing that drive rate is really on the wind or hail, as we call it, on your insurance. So the drivers of that are what is the age of the roof, the type of roof you have, and the quality of how it's attached to the structure. So it doesn't lift in the event of a hurricane or tornado or something. Also, your wind mitigation report that is oftentimes referred to when you're purchasing a home. I'm sure you've seen tons of those. Those give or do not give credit for how the home would respond in the event of a storm. So the openings, are they impact rated? So you want to have your doors and any openings like windows or doors to the home must be impact rated.
And that's just to that point, it's an all or nothing. So it's not like if you buy a home and most of the windows are impact resistant, you're not going to get that credit because either they're all or they're nothing. So maybe you're buying a home and there are 3 windows that aren't impact resistant. After closing, you could change those out, make them impact resistant, and then be eligible for the credits. Is that fair to say?
That's correct. The misconception is that you kind of want coverage on this coast of Florida, on the East Coast. You'd want it on that side of your home because people think that's where the wind's coming from. But really what we're talking about are storms that are high pressure events and they can lift a roof. If any opening has a large missile fly through, like a tree or a coconut or something, that can create pressure in the home and lift the roof. So you want all protection on the home. All openings of the home need to be protected to qualify for the discount.
When we're talking about wind mitt and coconuts, we know we're in South Florida. And what are, common misconceptions, things that people think that aren't really correct?
Oh, I don't want to make fun of anyone that calls in because people aren't all insurance folks, but we get a lot of what I would call silly questions just because of the misconceptions that are out there. So when you spend, hard-earned dollars to protect your most valuable asset, you think everything's covered. But as we mentioned, flood, which is defined as rising water, right, in the home, not flood in a condo that comes from upstairs or something like that. Flood is rising waters. That's not covered by a homeowner's policy in any one of our 50 states. You can add flood on at times for additional premium, but that's a big deal, is that flood is not covered. Oftentimes, folks are trying to reduce the cost of the premiums, so they may take too high of a deductible. We see that very common. And the deductibles that they're taking are sometimes a percentage basis, like a windstorm or hail deductible, which is a percentage of your building reconstruction. So if you have, let's just call a $500,000 limit on a single family home, and you have a 2% deductible, it's $10,000. The first $10,000 in the event of a storm damage to your home, that would be your responsibility. A homeowner that has a $500,000 home might be able to afford that comfortably. That same homeowner with a 5%, it goes to $25,000.
Big difference.
Big difference, and the credit associated with moving from a 2 to a 5 oftentimes is not that great. So that's one of those unforced errors by misconception. It sounds great to take that 5 versus a 2, but what are you really getting back from it in the event of a storm? That may have been a large issue. And actually, in some cases, that $25,000 may be more than the cost of the entire claim. So you really won't get anything back.
Gotcha. And I want to ask this last question. I know we did cover it. We did another video on condos, but I think it's such an important question. And it is, how often should you be reviewing your policies? And is it your responsibility as the policy holder to be reaching out to your agent every so often? Or should your agent, I'm lucky I have Aaron as my insurance agent, so he reaches out to me and we review my policies every 2 or 3 years. But if someone doesn't have a insurance agent that is proactive, how often should they reach out to their insurance agent? And if they want an insurance agent that is more proactive and is in an area that you can write, then how often would you be contacting them if they were a client of yours?
It's a great question. Annually, the insurance company should be giving you a product at renewal, provided the home is still eligible for whatever reason. They should be giving you something equal or better. So we like to think that there may be an inflation guard on the home, which would 2 or 3% annually, the limits would increase just to keep up with the cost of rising labor and materials to rebuild the home. On top of that, I would say we like to reach out every 6 months or a year, depending on the type of insurance, to see if there's any changes in the home that we don't know about. Maybe you've put a new roof on, that would get you a credit, right? Maybe you had more children and you put an addition onto the home when we don't know about. There could be just a situation where you lost a tenant and now the property would be considered vacant. Or maybe you decided to permanently to furnish one of your rental properties. In that case, we'd want to add contents onto a policy where maybe the prior tenant had their own furniture. So in those situations, some of it is what the clients tell us about, and we ask to make sure the insurance is still in place. And the other piece is just making sure every renewal, the limits get better and the premium goes down. And a good agent should be looking at those things quite regularly.
And where can you write insurance, Aaron? Is it only in the state of Florida?
We're concentrated mostly in South Florida, just by the nature of this is where I live, work, and play. I'm originally from up north, so we are licensed in 13 states, mostly along the eastern seaboard and some of the Midwest.
And I know you have relationships with other with other insurance agents throughout the country through your network. So if you haven't spoken to your insurance agent, they haven't reached out to you, I would encourage you to reach out to Aaron Talone with All Star Insurance Services. We will be putting his information there. I am Ellen Mitchel, your heels on the ground in the Miami-Fort Lauderdale area. Please like and subscribe if you like the content. If you didn't, don't. Just kidding. If you have any questions or comments, ideas for future episodes, please put them in there. I read all the comments and really want to be of service. And I just want to end by thanking you, Aaron. We always have great conversations, and I'm so glad that you came out today. So thank you. Hit Aaron up. He's your guy.